And as always, guys, make sure you are smashing the like button, you are subbing to the channel, and you are sharing the channel. And big up to everyone that come through yesterday on the stream with myself, Fitz, and with Owen as well. Obviously, we done our all-time Arsenal 11. So obviously, it's a regular stream that we're doing, which we are going to fit in every Tuesday or Wednesday. Even though we might do it Monday coming, I'll have to see what if everyone else is available. But so yeah, we obviously done Manchester United last week, Arsenal yesterday, and again, if you guys didn't see it, make sure you go and check it. It's in chapters as well. And if you want to divert to anything in particular, then yeah, make sure you check that out. Obviously, there was a bit in there that we did divert away from the Arsenal all-time 11. You know, obviously there was some Manchester United talk in there as well, which is interesting. So again, yeah, if you guys want to check that out, then as I said, man, it's in chapters anyway. But listen, we're gonna discuss something because, you know, these are the kind of conversations that I like to have. You know, it's not for everyone. Not for everyone, but again, it's gonna be quite. I would say, well, it's not even controversial because it's a lot of the things that I haven't said different anyway. You know, because one thing about me is that I'm very consistent in, you know, what I'm saying about certain players. You know, it doesn't come from a place of hate or nothing like that. I just call what I see. And I think there's too many people that have the same opinion or whatever they're being told or being lied to in the media. And on my channel, you know, I'll give you some honest truth. You know, we'll discuss it, whether you like it or not. And as I say, we don't just talk rubbish on there. We always provide, you know, information and facts. You know what I mean? So, again, if you guys do enjoy the content, as I said, make sure you keep tuning in and make sure you keep your questions and comments coming through as well. Big up to I Am Titanium says, big up, Gav, my bro. Have you seen much of JJ Gabriel? You know what? I've seen JJ Gabriel obviously in the youth, and yeah, listen, he's a top player, man, and I just hope. Again, players like that, you don't want to rush them too quick. But I just hope next season he is, because obviously he is training with the first team now anyway. But I just hope that he's part of the squad, some match day squads, and he does get the odd game time and see what he can do. But as I said, yeah, I've seen him. I'll be a liar if I said I've seen him play every game, because I haven't. But as I said, guys, I'm from the era of the likes of Giuseppe Rossi, when Giuseppe Rossi was in, you know, United's reserves. And if those of you that haven't seen Giuseppe Rossi, you know, that's arguably been the best player to come out. And again, we bought him from Parma, but he was playing for the under-23s, yeah? He's been probably one of the best players, if not the best player, to come out of that under-23 setup, or the reserve team at the time, that if it wasn't for injuries, this guy would have been a world beater. So the likes of JJ Gabriel, you know, Ravel Morrison's another one. You know, these guys have serious talent, but we need to kind of see what they do from here moving forwards. But yeah, listen, he's definitely got potential, and he's definitely got the scope, man, to be, you know, a world beater. But let's just see what he does. Big up to Fitz, big up my guy each and every time. Big up to Babs One Diva as well. So guys, listen, let's get into it anyway, because and again, keep your questions and comments coming through. So you guys have seen the title, you know, real talent versus PR. And when I'm saying real talent, you know, again, I look at someone like Kobbie Mainoo, yeah, and Kobbie Mainoo, you know, had his critics under Ruben Amorim for some reason, you know, because Amorim made it seem as if Kobbie Mainoo, really and truly, if we're keeping it real, yeah, wasn't good enough for what he wanted to do, you know. And people like myself, you know, people like Fitz as well and others, you know, we always kept the energy saying that, you know, Kobbie has got the potential, he has got the quality to be a star for Manchester United, you know. I wasn't of the opinion that Kobbie, with the age that he's at, should be starting every game, you know what I mean? But for what we had, there was no excuse for Kobbie to be on the bench as much as he did. But listen, we've got past Ruben Amorim, thank God. It's been a painful ride with that guy. But Michael Carrick quite clearly has shown everyone what Kobbie can do and how highly he rates him, you know. And this is why I say Kobbie Mainoo for me is a real talent, because I look at England midfielders right now, and in what Kobbie has, I'm looking at possibly the kind of player that he is, the composure he has on the ball. I'm looking at an Adam Walton as his closest competitor. I like Elliot Anderson as well. I do think Elliot Anderson's very good, but I'm looking at Adam Walton really having that kind of composure that Kobbie has as his closest peer. So I do believe that. And guys, keep your questions and comments coming through, because I will get back to them once I finish discussing. And I do think you're looking at Kobbie, you're looking at Adam Walton, especially those two as the cornerstone for the England national team, providing, the next manager or whoever it is, if it is Tuchel, if you want to have proper ball players in that midfield, I can't look no further than Kobbie and Adam Walton for me. And obviously Elliot Anderson has shown what he's got as well. So he's another name that is in there. Yeah. So again, he's a real talent for me, and Jude Bellingham for me is a PR machine. And I'll always stick by that, because, as I said, people don't really want to have these kind of conversations, but on here I will. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do, guys, I'm gonna go through some numbers that I've wrote down, and again we're gonna discuss both players. Yeah. So, and I've gone back to when they were both obviously at the ages of 18, 19, 20, and obviously Bellingham's 22. So there's no point. Obviously, we can't go into Kobbie, because obviously Kobbie's only 20. And what was actually weird, this is something a bit off subject now, You know what I mean about when I tell you about how Bellingham is PR to the max, even little things, I actually went to I knew how old obviously both players are, I actually asked my Alexa today, and I said, Alexa, how old is Jude Bellingham? Instantly, Alexa just said 22. As soon as I asked Alexa about Kobbie Mainoo, she's saying she's not aware of the answer, or just didn't respond. And that is something little. But what I'm trying to tell you is that Jude Bellingham is everywhere. Even Alexa knows instantly Jude Bellingham, but she doesn't know who doesn't know who Kobbie Mainoo is. So that's just something that's just something little, but the bigger picture is what I'm going to go on to. So again, Kobbie at 18, guys, 24 games for United, 3 goals, 1 assist. Jude Bellingham at 18 for Borussia Dortmund. 32 games. Oh, sorry, at the age of 18, should I say. 32 games, 3 goals, and 8 assists. Kobbie had 6 games for England, 371 minutes played, 2 Champions League appearances at the age of 18. Jude Bellingham, 8 Champions League / Europa games, 1 goal and 2 assists. Then we go on to Bellingham at the age of 18, his goal involvements. So Bellingham, 20 goal involvements, which was 6 goals and 14 assists for Borussia Dortmund. 3 games, 2 goals in the German Cup, and then 18 games for England. Which I'm not aware of how many goals he has scored. But I do believe Jude Bellingham for England has, and I could be wrong here, I believe he might have something like 40-something caps, 46 caps, and I think he might have 6 goals or something like that. Kobbie Mainoo at 18, 5 goal involvements. So again, if you want to say Jude Bellingham clears Kobbie Mainoo when it comes to goal involvements, we shouldn't really be surprised. He's played more games, not to mention Kobbie has been playing a lot more deeper in the midfield. And obviously Bellingham has been playing more attacking. So at 18, 20 goal involvements for Bellingham, playing in Germany for Borussia Dortmund, and 5 for Kobbie. Then if we look at 19, so again, you could probably say that Bellingham at Dortmund was getting better season by season. But this will all work out itself if you guys just bear with me, So Bellingham, 21 goal involvements for Borussia Dortmund in his second season, which is 14 goals and 7 assists in 42 appearances. So again, better his last season. Kobbie only had 3 goal involvements. And again, if we're looking at output from both Bellingham and Kobbie, it is unfair to compare that, because as we know, Bellingham is a box crasher, was getting more involved in the final third than what Kobbie was. Whereas Kobbie was more of a conductor deep in midfield, using his composure to get out of tight spaces and keep the ball ticking over. Yeah. So the goal involvement is heavily going to be favoured with Jude Bellingham. Then we move on to Bellingham at 20. Now, this is when Bellingham got his move to Real Madrid off the back of, you would say, 2 consistent seasons with Borussia Dortmund. Now, in his first season at Real Madrid, 36 goal involvements, 23 goals, 13 assists in 42 appearances. Now, people will tell you that, it's one of them things where Bellingham now is being known as a goal-scoring midfielder, because of those numbers. Now, if you look at the fact that Bellingham, and I've mentioned this before, which people, don't seem to be grasping from what I'm from when we're comparing Jude Bellingham. Now, Jude Bellingham played as the false 9 when Carlo Ancelotti brought him to the club. Because if you remember, they had Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. playing as split strikers, which meant that Bellingham was playing as the most advanced midfielder come false 9, where he was tasked with crashing the box. And he was the main outlet for goals because of the split strikers of Vinny and Rodrigo either side. Now, the midfield behind him was Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Luka Modric, Valverde. All 4 of those players at certain times played behind Bellingham, who's playing as a false 9. And again, Bellingham got his numbers because the system allowed him to be that kind of player in terms of crashing the box and getting numbers. So cool, 23 goals, 14 assists, looks very good or 13 assists, should I say, looks very good for the stat sheet, yeah? But again, people then looked at Bellingham as, that is what Bellingham's about. He's a goal-scoring midfielder. Now, if you're going from him 18, as we've already discussed, 6 goals, 14 goals, 23 goals, you would see that there's been continuous progression, yeah? Did I think him hitting 23 goals was the norm? No. It was just the system that he was playing in that helped him get those numbers. And this is what I'm trying to tell you, yeah? And again, if you look at Kobbie Mainoo, Kobbie's been very consistent since he's come into the Manchester United first team. 5 goal involvements as an 18-year-old, 3 as a 19-year-old, 3 as a 20-year-old. Now, this is where I'm going to look at Bellingham now, yeah? This is why when I discuss certain players, yeah, I look at Kobbie. Kobbie's a pure footballer. Jude Bellingham is a PR machine that has physicality in the league that doesn't really have much physicality, So the way that he plays, with his athleticism, the fact that he is box to box, we shouldn't really be surprised if he is nicking goals, yeah? Now, this is where it changes it for me, guys, because I knew the hype he was getting, was never going to be continuous for me. And you're going to kind of see it now anyway. So the fact that I mentioned to you that Jude Bellingham hit 23 goals when he was playing as the false 9, surprise, surprise, when he hits 21, a certain player comes into the club in Kylian Mbappe, who, as we already know, Kylian Mbappe, for me, is a natural left winger anyway, but obviously does play through the middle now for Real Madrid. So again, if you would have thought Jude Bellingham hitting 23 goals, 13 assists, and I'm gonna focus on the goals especially, because this is what people like to say, that Bellingham is a goal machine because of what he's done previously. Now, you would have thought, going by his progression season after season, his numbers, he would have bettered 23 goals, So the next season when Mbappe comes through the door, Bellingham's numbers reduced by 10. So he got 13 goals in 44 appearances as soon as Mbappe came in. Now, why is that? Because the positions that Bellingham was taking up, is now been occupied by Kylian Mbappe. So are we really surprised when the numbers drop off? Myself, I weren't surprised because football was obviously going to work like that. He had no one really in his way, Bellingham, in that sense. But as soon as Mbappe came through the door, who dominated the goal scoring, something's going to have to drop off. And that's where Bellingham, his numbers dropped off. So he got 13 goals in 44 appearances at 21. At 22, which is this season, 6 goals in 27 appearances. And I think he's injured at the moment. So, guys, you can clearly see from that, yeah? And this is why I like doing things like this, because Kobbie Mainoo, yeah, has kept it consistent, you know? Low numbers, 5, 3, and 3, yeah, at the age of, from 18 to 20. Bellingham, you know, it was 6, 14, 6, 14, and 23. And now it's drastically dropped off from 13, now down to 6. And the point I want to make from this, guys, yeah, is that Jude Bellingham's goal scoring was never going to be sustainable. It wasn't. His highest goal scoring season was when there was no striker there. Now there's a striker there, yeah. His numbers are not going to hit the numbers that people were trying to get us to believe that was what Jude Bellingham was all about. And obviously, I Am Titanium has said Bellingham is the English Scott McTominay. That is basically what he is. People might not wanna believe that, yeah, or like that, but that is what he is. You know, there's a reason why Jude Bellingham found his way to Real Madrid is purely because of PR. Like, it is definitely PR, you know, and the fact that he's had that season of 23 goals, I think it's gassed people to thinking that Jude Bellingham belongs to be at Real Madrid because of those numbers. But those numbers have drastically reduced for a reason, you know, and this is why I bring it back to PR, because PR has played a massive part in hyping up Bellingham at the extent of a player like a Kobbie Mainoo. Because for England, come the summer, the fact that Kobbie's playing regularly now for Manchester United, you know, for me, he's a shoo-in for that squad, a shoo-in. And I'll tell you why he's a shoo-in for the squad and why he's going to be more valuable than a player like Jude Bellingham. Because if we're looking at the midfield that England have, and I believe England take, and I said this before, I believe England take 4 central midfielders. I believe Elliot Anderson and Declan Rice are definitely there. And then you've got a choice between Kobbie Mainoo, Adam Wharton. I mean, I'm going to throw his name in there, even though I don't think he goes, and he shouldn't go. Conor Gallagher. Alex Scott from Bournemouth. And then if you want to include Bellingham's name in there as well, even though we know that Bellingham cannot play as in the midfield too, you know. So the reason why Kobbie's valuable for me is because in international football, you need players that are individuals and composed, especially in the midfield area. Because when you're trying to break down teams, you need patience. I look at Declan Rice, yeah? Declan Rice is very high energy, box to box. And when you're playing against the lesser teams that might want to sit in, you are going to need players that can open the door. Whether it's from, you know, from deep, trying to dribble from deep and, you know, commit midfielders or defenders to come to you so there's space that opens up for others. Or whether you can slip the ball through an eye of a needle, you know, whether you're press resistant. All these qualities that Kobbie has in abundance, yeah? And the same with Adam Wharton. So for me, those two definitely need to be on the plane come the World Cup, purely because of what they offer in midfield, you know. Then if we're looking at Jude Bellingham, you know, again, his numbers for England, as I already told you, are not even that good in comparison to the amount of games he's played. As I said, I think it's 46 games and it's 6 goals, yeah. Now, I look at Bellingham where he potentially could be playing for England, yeah? And that's the number 10 position. And again, I've mentioned this before. If you're looking at Bellingham as playing a number 10 position, what does he have over all the other number 10s that are potentially going to play there? These are the questions that people need to ask, you know? And guys, in the chat, let me know what you think Jude Bellingham has over these players in that position. Because if we're going to say he can box crash as the reason as to why he should be chosen ahead of Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer, Gibbs White, Eze, trying to think who else is there. So all those players there, what does he have over all those players? Jude Bellingham. Because box crashing, yeah, isn't a skill really. Because anyone can box crash. They can do that. Because all that is just running into the box. It's not really something that no one else can do. Yeah. So my point to you is, why does Jude Bellingham need to be included in this England team? Because you're not going to trust him to be disciplined to play him as a deep lying midfielder. And again, you've got better options there, players that can control the midfield. You know, Kobbie, Walton, they can dictate the tempo of a game. Elliot Anderson, you can put him in there as well. And if you got the likes of Declan Rice, really, that is box to box, you don't really need a Jude Bellingham, really. Because the only thing that Jude Bellingham, you people would say that he offers something a bit different to the number 10s, is that consistent box crashing. But again, England do not need a player like Bellingham to be box crashing, really. Because England need a number 10 in there that can link the play. You know what I mean? Or someone that can run in beyond Harry Kane. And this is why I'm saying Morgan Rogers is more adept at that. Because Morgan Rogers is better in tight spaces than Bellingham. You know, he can run beyond Harry Kane as well as Jude Bellingham. So again, Jude Bellingham's position in this team, in this England squad, it's not really there. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Like there's no case that anyone can make for Bellingham being better than any of the central players as to where he's going to play, other than PR. PR is probably going to get him in the England squad. That's the truth. And again, the PR, is it based off Bellingham's quality, or is it based off the supposed numbers that they think he gets? Because if you look at over the last 2 seasons, yeah, why has his numbers declined? Why have they declined? These are the questions that people don't want to ask. Why has his numbers declined? How comes all of a sudden at Real Madrid, his first season, yeah, he hit very good numbers, yeah, but then the last 2 seasons for goals wise, yeah, as we've already discussed, he's hit 13 and 6. Tell us why that's happened. It's not really hard to understand why that's happened, because you would have thought, yeah, for England, he would have high numbers for England. I believe he's got 6 goals, as I said, for England. But yet the PR is at a level where, you know, people have been fooled to thinking that this guy is a goal-scoring midfielder. He's not. He's clearly not that, really. He's clearly not that. You know what I mean? He's just someone that capitalized on a system that Ancelotti put in place, which allowed him to get 23 goals. But again, we know why that was. He was playing as a false 9. There's no surprise how he's playing slightly deeper now. He's not getting the same numbers, which we all knew that was going to happen anyway. But we was led to believe that, you know, Jude Bellingham is this goal-scoring midfielder, this world-class player. If you look at Jude Bellingham from an aesthetic point of view, yeah, he's physical. He can run all day. He's box to box, yeah. In terms of his ability, you know, he can't dribble. He hasn't got a great first touch. You know, his technique really isn't great. He's just a physical, as someone mentioned earlier. He's just another Scott McTominay. That is the honest truth. You know what I mean? And the thing is, when I'm looking at how he's perceived in football and how Kobbie Mainoo is, yeah, it just tells you all you need to know about the state really of English football. Because if you was to ask the majority of people who has the biggest potential, the majority would say Jude Bellingham. And that isn't based off of ability. It's based off these supposed numbers that people think he gets. That is the truth. Big up to Carl Linney, says Jude Bellingham overrated. Massively overrated. He's one of the biggest him and Bruno Fernandes, for me, they're the most overrated players in world football. And I've been saying this for years. And Jude Bellingham, I would say, is more overrated than Bruno. You know what I mean? Because You know, if you want to use Bruno as someone that, you know, he gets consistent numbers, even though I don't rate it like that, then cool. But Jude Bellingham, really and truly, is playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world, and it's not based off of ability. It's based off of PR. That's the truth. You know, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm gonna go through some of your comments. Obviously, you guys have been here. Big up yourselves. So I am Titanium says, do you see any positives in Jude? This is the honest truth, yeah? Not really. Not really. Because the way that I look at it, yeah, what does Jude Bellingham give me, yeah, in terms of a player that a Morgan Rogers doesn't give? These are the questions that I like to discuss, because Morgan Rogers is on the ball as powerful, if not more powerful, than Jude Bellingham. He's a better dribbler. You know, he's got a better first touch. He's better technically than him. You know, if you want to say the one season that Bellingham had the output, then again, there's a reason why he had that output. He was playing as a false nine, box crashing. So that's the way I like to see it. So the positives that are in Jude Bellingham, the honest truth is there ain't really any positives to take away from this, from Jude Bellingham. I just think Jude Bellingham has been put in a position, yeah, where the hype doesn't match the ability. That is the truth. He's just been PR'd to the highest hills, really. And a lot of it comes down to do with his image. Because I've told you guys this plenty of times, yeah? The sharp hairline and the light skin is what's getting people to think that he's that good. Because if you just actually watch him play, you can't tell me that this is a top player. He's not. I've watched him play so many times, yeah? And I can probably tell you I've probably seen him have one game that I've said, you know what, he's been good from start to finish. The majority of the time, you know, it's just baggy touches, you know, it's losing possession, it's wrong decision making. And again, he gets hyped up because he's a passion merchant. Like, he's a proper passion merchant. And these are the kind of players that, unfortunately, a lot of fans kind of relate to or just love. You know, you're never going to get me rating players like that, because I wasn't brought up on things like that, you know. And the fact that, you know, I can't tell you any positives about him. And again, if there's anyone in the chat that thinks that there's positives with Jude Bellingham, then please let me know, because the physicality side of it, it might look good in Spain, because it's a league that hasn't got much physicality, and we all know that. But if you bring his physicality back into the Premier League, he is just another player. That's the truth. So his physicality is null and void, really, playing in the Premier League. That's the truth. You know what I mean? So yeah, I can't really see any positives for me. Big up Red Devil News. Big up. Brother, why did Gala play like that? Almost as if they were in their sleep. We're all shocked. Juve played brilliantly. They deserved the win. I didn't even see that game. I mean, I'm not even sure who got through in the end. Guys, who won that game? Juventus or Galatasaray? I didn't even see it. Big up though, anyway. Bellingham is just PR, Gav. They just want him for some silly reason because he plays for Real Madrid. But that is what it is. And, you know, I think the way definitely this... The way obviously the media and the fans work in this country, yeah? If you're playing for Real Madrid or teams like that, automatically, you know, you're going to be a starter or in amongst the England team, you know? If you look at the players that are starters for England that play abroad, Harry Kane really is the only one that you cannot argue. And there's a reason why Harry Kane is rated highly. Because Harry Kane gets numbers, but he's a top footballer. The footballer in Harry Kane comes before the numbers. He gets numbers as a bonus. And this is how football should be judged. You should always look at the player first and foremost. You know, Harry Kane's technical, you know, and he gets the numbers. So there's no argument with Harry Kane. The only argument people can have with Harry Kane is he has to win a Champions League, a Euros, or a World Cup. But in terms of his footballing ability, there's no conversation to be had. because he's got it in abundance and he gets the numbers to back it up. So, and then you've got Jude Bellingham playing for Real Madrid. It's like, for instance, Jadon Sancho for me is a top player, but Sancho was in the England team because even though he was playing abroad, he was at Borussia Dortmund, so there was reason for him to be in there. Obviously, you know, his career hasn't gone the way that it should have, but he doesn't find himself back in the England team. You know what I mean? But Bellingham's purely in the England team because he's at Real Madrid. That is the truth. Because I guarantee you now, if he was to leave Real Madrid and he was to come back, let's say, to the Premiership, and he was playing for I don't know, an Everton, let's say, do you really believe he gets into the England squad or starts game? The Real Madrid is giving him reason to be considered still. Because I look at all number 10s or where he's going to play, he ain't better than any one of them, in my opinion. He's not better than any one of them, you know? So again, it's because he plays for Real Madrid, it's allowing people's judgment to be clouded, yeah, to think that he's that guy, and he's not. It's that simple. Rodgers should be starting for England. He should be. You know, if like for me, if I'm looking at England's attack moving forwards, you know, and this is again, Foden's another one I forgot to mention. Foden again for me is a better number 10 than Jude Bellingham. But if I'm looking at starters for England in them attacking positions, for me, Morgan Rogers, Cole Palmer, there has to be places for either one of them. You know what I mean? When everyone's fit. But again, this is what I'm looking forward to. So I want to see what Tuchel does personally. Clockender says Jude had a shocker against us over the 2 legs, Gav. Yeah, but again, that's not really surprising. It's not surprising. Like, Jude Bellingham's is not a top player. Like, I'd argue that with anyone. He's not a top player. PR makes people think that he's a top player. But as a footballer, when you just watch him, he ain't that. You know what I mean? Big up to Foxy Danny as well. Can't run with it, can't pass it, can't score an effing goal. He wears his socks halfway around his shin pads and it looks shit. But yeah, listen. Yeah, as I said, man. The fact that he gets more coverage than someone like a Kobbie Mainoo, and this is why, for me, yeah, the fact that Kobbie's numbers are low, but they're consistent, again, this is part of the problem. Jude Bellingham gets highlighted because of numbers. You know, Kobbie Mainoo, rightfully so, gets highlighted because of his footballing ability. And the footballing ability should always be, you know, taken above someone that gets numbers. Because numbers are never sustainable. This is what people need to realize. Numbers are never sustainable. You know what I mean? There's only top players, like your strikers, like the Harry Kanes, for instance, yeah? The Robert Lewandowskis. You know, you can throw Haaland in there. And the reason I didn't mention Haaland, because Haaland is a mad goal scorer. But as an all-round player, he is getting better. But he's not the level of a Harry Kane or a Lewandowski in their prime. So what I'm trying to say to you guys is that, you know, numbers really, apart from those two, are never sustainable. You know what I mean? Jude Bellingham's output is never going to be sustainable. But you know what is sustainable? Consistent quality. And that's something that he doesn't have. And that's something that Kobbie has. You know what I mean? Kobbie will always show you something in the game which reminds people of how good of a footballer that he is. You know, little things that people, you know, won't really take into account. There's little things you can watch him do. You know, when the game's a bit frantic, you know, he can put his foot on the ball and just keep it moving. You know, these things are not simple things to do, I would say. But he consistently does that. And as I said, this is how I kind of look at players. You know, if you look at our discussion yesterday with myself, Fitz, and Owen, you know, we were going back and forwards. Obviously, Owen is a massive fan of Bruno Fernandes, you know, and again, a lot of Bruno Fernandes' loving is because of numbers. Because if you was to put the numbers to the side and look at his general performances, you'd actually get to realize that, yeah, the performances are nowhere near as the hype that he gets. you know, and that's why I keep saying numbers can never be sustainable for players like that, because all it takes really, if you've got a system in play where you're now having to be more disciplined in your role, your numbers will drop off. Do you know what I mean? But if you're performing to a certain level, irrespective of the numbers, this is what matters, because in theory, your team will be better off as a result, you know? So I'm still mad at Ruben for not starting Kobbie. But listen, this is the thing, I am titanium, yeah? This has been a major problem with not just Amorim, but it was the same thing really you would say with Ten Hag. And the thing is, I know Ten Hag obviously did play Kobbie Mainoo, yeah, but I'm looking purely at the two managers that we've had in the past in Ten Hag and Amorim. These guys don't like footballers; they just prefer runners, and this was the biggest problem that I had with those managers. And the fact that Carrick, has come in, he's restored Kobbie. The very fact that he restored Kobbie to this team, showed you what he's on. He wants to play more with the ball. You know what I mean? So, as I said, man, the fact that Amorim didn't play Kobbie Mainoo was part of the problem, man, unfortunately. It's definitely part of the problem. And now obviously Kobbie's playing regularly. Is there any surprise why he's now been mentioned back in conversations with England and why he's looking like one of our best players? It's not a surprise to me. It won't be a surprise to many, but Amorim had us thinking that Kobbie was no good. The talk about Kobbie's got no legs, he's struggling to get back. You know what I mean? All this nonsense that Amorim had people thinking. And again, that's only because the way the majority of fans see football, is, if you're not getting around the pitch, you're a liability in people's eyes. You know what I mean? What people don't want to look at is that if you're someone that is running around the pitch everywhere but your position, at what point do you look at the fact that maybe you're a hindrance to your team? Because if you're out of position, that means someone's got to go and fill that gap. And that's when the team becomes disjointed. These kind of things that people don't even want to look at. Because as far as people are concerned, it's a case of, he's working hard in their eyes. How about working smart? You know what I mean? But yeah, man. What did Madrid see in Jude? I'd even go as far to say his brother is more technical and better. But again, his brother is more technical and better. Joe Bellingham, he is. The thing with Bellingham, is that Bellingham, whether I like it or not, is a shirt seller. You know what I mean? He sells shirts because the majority of his fans, are probably young kids that think he's the best thing since sliced bread. That's the truth. So Real Madrid are capitalizing on his marketability. That's what it is. Because, as I said, when I'm about, the amount of people that talk about Jude Bellingham is just ridiculous. It's like I've never seen a player like that being talked about like in the way he does. When I was growing up, when I was younger, it was about Zidane, R9, Ronaldinho, Bergkamp, Batistuta, Rivaldo, Pablo Aimar. You know what I mean? Even more recent time, the Neymars, the Messis. You know what I mean? The Eden Hazards, the Pogbas, players like that were talked about, And now all you hear is Bellingham, Salah. Like, it's mad. Like, but that's where football's gone, man, unfortunately. Like, we're hearing names like that being talked about as if these guys are, the best players in the world. We used to hear players like George Weah, Roberto Baggio. And now we hear Bellingham. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, man. So, that's the kind of era we're in now, unfortunately, man. But again, it's marketability. That's why Madrid have him, because he sells shirts. Because there's no point to me that think Madrid have bought him because they believe he's just this pure midfielder. Never. Never. Like, they've had Modric. They've had Toni Kroos. They've had Casemiro. They've had Guti. They've had Wesley Sneijder. Rafael van der Vaart. Fernando Gago. Fernando Hierro. You know, is anyone else I'm missing? They've had bad boys like that in the midfield. So you really think that they're looking at Bellingham because he's a pure footballer? It's not that. It's only because he sells shirts. That's it. You know? Yeah, listen, standards have dropped, man. They have. Like, they have massively dropped. You know what I mean? I'll be a lie to say they have. They haven't, but they have dropped. And the fact that standards have dropped, yeah, it kind of shows you how fans are seeing football now. Because, you know, people just don't like hearing the truth. They like to be lied to. That's, you know what I mean? Because if you used to ask people why you rate Jude Bellingham, there's not really too much answer coming back from that. You know, it's just you know, they'll rate him because he's at Real Madrid. That's what they'll tell you. They won't rate him because they actually think he's a top footballer. Because there's no one that can say he's a top footballer. Because if you start asking people, okay, what do you think? Why do you think Bellingham's a top footballer? There's not really much things that you can actually go off. That's the truth. Apart from numbers, but we've already discussed the numbers. He doesn't get numbers like that you would believe. So yeah, these are the honest truth, man. And the fact that, as I said to you, Kobbie Mainoo now for me, you know, doesn't get the hype that Bellingham gets, but the potential of Kobbie Mainoo is far exceeds Bellingham for me. You know, is Kobbie Mainoo capable of playing for Real Madrid? Of course he is. Of course he is. But he's a player that, for me, will be at Manchester United for the whole of his career. You know, if Man United are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and look, it's looking like that we're on our way back to doing that, that's a player there, you know, that, for me, there's no chance of him leaving. You know, I truly do believe that because, you know, future captain, yeah, probably, I can see that. So, yeah, but if Man United are not doing what they're supposed to do, you know, and Kobbie is playing regularly, you know, there will be teams like Real Madrid, Bayern, Barcelona. You know, they will definitely be in for a Kobbie. You know what I mean? Yeah, big up Titanium, man. Fernando Redondo. There we go. They've had Real Madrid have had players like that, yeah. Players like that weren't even regarded really, and not through no fault of their own, yeah, because the standard was high, yeah. But they've had players like that, and we're meant to believe that Real Madrid bought Bellingham because they genuinely thought he was one of the best players in the world. Never. Never that, man. Never that. So, yeah, standards at an all-time low, unfortunately, man. At an all-time low. Guys, make sure we're smashing the likes. There's 7 of you watching, 6 likes. Make sure you're smashing the likes. Again, not a conversation for everyone because, again, as we already know, the majority of the people, you know, are going to favour the Bellingham talk because, you know, in this era of football, you know, if you're saying something that the masses don't agree with, this is what happens, you know what I mean? But, you know, I'm never going to shy away from conversation like this because, you know, I always like to break things down. You know, I enjoy breaking things down and having conversation. But there's too many people out there that just want to have the same opinion. And the reality is, you know, there's not really much that they can go off, really. Yeah, bro, I love these conversations, you know, because I like to, you know, hear a different perspective as well. You know, even if you do rate Jude Bellingham, you know, and we don't see eye to eye, like, it's not about that, man. If people rate Bellingham, then cool, let's debate it out. But a lot of people only rate Bellingham because of what they're told to rate, you know, because of, you know, what the majority are saying. You know, that's the thing. Gav, people said Bellingham should come to us. I'm like, hell no. Again, the people that want Bellingham to come to United, they're not fans of football. They're just fans of his PR. And this is what I'm saying. Because if you think that we've got Bruno Fernandes there, and these people think that we're gonna go and that they want Bellingham to replace Bruno, let's say, it's like they're not learning, because I don't rate Bruno as highly as what others do, yeah. But I would much rather keep Bruno Fernandes than sign a Jude Bellingham. That goes without saying. Like, you know what I mean? So yeah, man. There's no way Jude Bellingham. I want to see Jude Bellingham, you know, at Man United. There's no way Jude Bellingham makes his way to Manchester. Full stop. Full stop. You know what I mean? Because Man City won't sign a player like that. No way. Ineos would probably sign him because he's English and they love a PR machine. But what I would say, yeah, I actually think we're going away from that now. I think in the past, you know, probably under Ed Woodward and them kind of guys, they would have done that. But the Man United now under Ineos, we're not signing players for PR no more. I think that time's done, and good as well. Yeah. So I don't personally think that's going to happen. You know, I just want to see players, yeah, that, you know, are going to fit what we're doing. You know, and the fact that it looks like that we're going back to playing possession-based, just go and sign us possession-based players. It's that simple, you know. And Jude Bellingham is not a possession-based player. So, yeah. Florian Wirtz was a love for me. Listen, Florian Wirtz is one of my favorite players, man. One of my favorite players. You know, when he was struggling at Liverpool and at the start, you know, I never said Wirtz is not a top player. Yeah, he was struggling, but I've watched Wirtz's career ever since he broke onto the scene at by Leverkusen. You know what I mean? When the argument comes along with Wirtz and Jamal Musiala, I actually rate Wirtz higher than Musiala, because the way Wirtz for me is a very intelligent player, and you can see the fact that Wirtz is getting to grips with the English league. And I'm telling you now, don't sleep on Florian Wirtz, man. He's gonna shock people, I believe, because he's a top player, man. He is, you know. And again, my first two choices, yeah, before United signed Cunha, was Florian Wirtz or Eze. I wanted either one of them players, and obviously we got Cunha. And again, I rate Cunha as well, so it's not a thing to say, oh, we've got Cunha now, because I rate Cunha. But Wirtz or Eze was the first two that I wanted United to sign. You know what I mean? So yeah. Yeah, he's a top player, man. Florian Wirtz, he is. He's a top player. Top player, man. No doubt. And I say he'll get better at Liverpool. You know, season after season for me, because their team again. They need to overhaul their team anyway. You think of Robertson, Van Dijk, Salah. You know, what's going to happen to Kanate? You know what I mean? Alisson's getting older now as well, and isn't the same Alisson. You know, so again, they're going to need to refresh and revamp that team, and I think Wirtz is going to be a massive part of that. You know, so we should get Rodgers for height and the techers. Yeah, but again, you know, I like to deal in realism. Yeah, we're not going to get Morgan Rodgers. For a start, Rodgers has signed a new contract at Aston Villa, and he's going to cost in excess of 80 million. So that's not going to happen. So yeah, that's where it stops for me. We're not getting Morgan Rodgers. You know, as much as I believe Rodgers would be a good player for us, it's not going to happen. So yeah. What, Gav? You didn't want Mbeumo at first. You wanted Wirtz instead. So no, I didn't. When the links to Mbeumo came about, yeah, I could see why they wanted Mbeumo. I could see it because he gets goals at Brentford. So United needed a player that got goals basically. But my first option was Mohamed Kudus. You know what I mean? Obviously, Kudus hasn't been the player, you know, that first broke in at West Ham. He's obviously injured as well. But my first option was Kudus on that right-hand side. Yeah. But the fact we got Mbeumo, I wasn't angry at it because I can see why they wanted Mbeumo because of numbers. But in terms of the left 10 that Amorim was playing, you know, my first option was Florian Wirtz on the left as a left 10. But the Wirtz one was never really going to happen because of the money and because of Champions League football. So it was more of a fantasy, but Verts was my first option, and then it was Eze. And obviously we didn't get either one. And then we got Cunha and Mbeumo, which again I'm happy with because both guys have shown that at their previous clubs that, you know, they were the key players for their teams and they got numbers. So again, I'm happy with the signings. But I don't rate Mbeumo like that. Mbeumo has his uses, you know, he's a when it comes to scoring goals in front of goal, like he's deadly. But in terms of Mbeumo the player, I don't rate him like that. You know what I mean? But he has his uses obviously for United. So so yeah, man. It could be a future option. Nah, bro, personally, I think the boat with Rodgers is done now because, as I said, the fact that he signed a new contract at Aston Villa, Man United are not going to go and pay over 80 million to go and get Rodgers because realistically, he's not really worth that. Even though I do think he's a top player, he's a good player, but he's not worth over 80 million. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's not going to happen. What we have to do is either create, you know, act shrewd basically in the market. And this is why, for me, you know, and I'll keep saying this, we need to get rid of Bruno Fernandes purely because of his wage, you know, so we can free up the money to go and get other players. And we've got attackers there that can all share the goals amongst them, rather than having one player that dominates the stats. Because what would you rather have? 5 or 6 players all chipping in with like 15 to 20 GA, or having one player that might get that, and then you can improve the midfield. I'd much rather sell Bruno Fernandes, you know, use his wage, use the money that we've got to go and improve the midfield, and have 5 or 6 players all chipping in to get goals. That surely has to be the way, you know, and that's what I prefer. But whether we go and do that, we'll have to wait to the end of the season. But that should be what we're targeting for me. You know, because people will say, oh, who's going to replace Bruno Fernandes? You haven't got to replace Bruno Fernandes directly. You know, just go and strengthen the midfield. You know, and as I said, you've got players that can play in the 10. And this is what I mentioned to Owen yesterday. It's not about replacing Bruno Fernandes' numbers, yeah? You've got 4 players there that can potentially play as a number 10 and 4 players that can get goals and it can be shared around. You know, I just felt that he was focusing too much on Bruno. But you haven't got to focus on Bruno because Bruno's a player that can be replaced. You haven't got to directly in place what he does in terms of numbers, but you can replace the other positions and bring other players in that can contribute to that, you know. If we had a real owner, then Sesko, Mbeumo, Cunha, Eze, Lemens and Baleba sacked Amorim after Grimsby and got Carrick in, we would have won the league hands down. But again, we spoke about this before. Like, and again, I don't really want to go back onto this because he's no longer here and it's old news now. But the fact that, you know, it took that long to sack Amorim in the first place, you know, it's kind of killed our chances, you know, of a possible title run. I'm telling you. Because to think that we've got the 1 game a week, you know, with the squad and what Carrick's doing now, you know, we definitely could have been involved in this title race. I'd argue that with anyone. But we sacked Amorim too late, man. That's the facts. Yeah, that's the facts. We need to replace Cass. Yeah, we do. We do. And again, if you haven't seen my my videos, my streams from before, make sure you check them out. I heard there was news about Camavinga. Listen, Camavinga's been a player that I wanted United to sign for years. And if we can get Camavinga, then listen, only 22 years of age, you know, a guy that made his debut for Rennes when he was 15, you know, number 10 on his back for Rennes as well, you know, running the midfield as young as 16. If we can get Camavinga, listen, go and get it done. If not, between Baleba, Walton, Tonali, Anderson, we need to be getting at least 2 of them to help Kobbie. That's what we need to be doing. You know, I like Angelo Stiller, but as I said, Stiller for me is, if we get Baleba, we get I mean Baleba Tonali, Camavinga Tonali is what I want to see personally. Yeah, And if we can get 2 or 3 of those players, yeah, because I don't think we get Walton or Anderson. I think they're going to end up at Man City, Liverpool, from what I believe anyway, yeah. But if we can get, you know, any 2 out of the 5, then Stiller might be someone that might be backups in a sense to all those players. But I think we need to be looking at those players first and foremost. How much would Camavinga cost? I would say Camavinga would probably cost about 60 mil, I would say. About 60 mil. Because of the injuries, Madrid might be looking at other players. You never know. But I'll tell you now, if he's available, we need to be in there. Because I'll tell you now, if he was to leave Real Madrid, yeah, he's going to either his next club, Camavinga, if he leaves Real Madrid, he'll either be playing for PSG, Bayern Munich, Man City, Chelsea, if it's not us. I guarantee you. If it's not us that Camavinga joins, PSG, Bayern Munich, I won't say Barca because obviously he's at Real Madrid, but PSG, Bayern Munich, Man City, or Chelsea, those 4 teams will get Camavinga, yeah, if it's not us. I guarantee you. So, yeah, man. Yeah, Fitz, bro. Listen, there is something in it, man. I'm convinced. I'm 100% convinced that there's something in the Camavinga. You know, I would like United to just test Real Madrid's resolve. You know, obviously he played yesterday. And again, if we put a bid in and they just say, look, he's not for sale, then cool. At least we're showing intent. But I've got a feeling that he could be gettable, man. You know, I know people have a thing about his injuries and that, but I'm looking past the injuries, man, because he's playing now and hopefully he can stay fit, man. So, yeah, that's all I care about, really. But if he's available, man, we have to be in it. Gad, Tottenham are looking at Samu Omarodian from Porto. Yeah, listen, do I believe that? I don't know, because they've got 3 strikers in Solanke, Kolomawani, and Richarlison. So you'd probably believe that one of them has to leave. Again, Omarodian for me isn't a great striker, but for what Tottenham need in terms of the profile, his physicality, then maybe, man, it might be a good signing for them, you know. Big Up Clockender says Beyonce on Friday, Bristol City on Saturday. Boy, listen, it's looking like you'll be going to a winner, man, with Beyonce. So listen, at least she wins, unlike your team. But yeah, man, big up, man. Have a good one. At least you'll get some enjoyment. Put it that way. Madrid won't sell him. I don't think there is a price. And again, this is where I'm looking at Red Devils, because it just seems too good to be true, man, that a player like that gets moved on. You know, I'm hoping for our sake, but yeah, if Real Madrid have got brains, they don't move him on, if I'm honest. You know? But let's wait and see. Guys, anyone got any news that you want me to react to? Any latest news? I've just seen that well, it's happened about an hour ago. Obviously, Conor Ben is fighting Regis Prograis, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I think it's the undercard. I mean, not undercard. The co-main event for the Tyson Fury fight. And again, man, listen, this is probably why he joined Dana Whiteman at his promotion, because he's now got a fight against yeah, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium again, yeah. But he's now got a fight against Regis Prograis. So, you know what I mean? You know what, yeah? You know the thing is now, yeah, I'm Titanium, yeah? I was waiting for someone to bring this up, yeah? Because I knew this news, yeah? But I purposely ignored it, yeah? And I'll tell you why. Guys, this is bullshit news. Barca interested in Leacher, yeah? I'll tell you why it's bullshit news, yeah? Because we all know how Barcelona play, yeah? Barcelona play with a high line, yeah? So if you've got a high line, what do you need as your centre-backs? You need pace, yeah? What's the one thing that Lisandro doesn't have? Pace, yeah? So why would Barcelona go and spend money to go and get Lisandro Martinez when potentially there's another centre-back, Mickey van der Ven, that offers what Barca would need? So again, when I see this news, it's not true. I don't know where that's coming from, yeah, but it's not true. And again, I think Lisandro might have a couple of years left on his contract. I'm not too sure, yeah. But the only reason why people would say that Barca want Lisandro Martinez is because Lisandro is known as a ball-playing defender. So again, Barcelona are a ball-playing team. But it doesn't make sense for them. It doesn't make sense for them to go and get Lisandro with the high line that they play. And again, if Hansi Flick does leave, which I hear it, yeah. But again, there's nothing concrete about Flick leaving. But even if Flick does leave, yeah, the philosophy of how Barcelona play, you know, is to condense the pitch and play quite high up anyway. So the reality is they're going to need a defender that has pace anyway. Which is why I mentioned, yeah, Mickey van der Ven fits Barcelona like a glove because he's left-footed, he has pace, and he's good in possession. This is why I'm saying to you that this Lisandro talk, it doesn't make any sense. If Lisandro was available on a free transfer and they wanted to bolster their defense, because if you look at the years of what Barcelona do, yeah, they've had, if you remember Thomas Vermaelen, Inigo Martinez, yeah, these guys have been bought as free transfer signings, yeah, which make up the squad. So if Lisandro was on a free, then I'd more take it seriously. But he's still got a contract at Man United. And Man United are not going to go and Barcelona are not going to go and pay money for Lisandro when it's a position that they need to strengthen, but not with the requirements that Lisandro offers. So again, that news, it doesn't make any sense. It's just people just saying things for clicks. You know what I mean? That's not going to happen for so many reasons. Mickey van der Ven is more ideal. Even Murillo, I want Murillo at Man United, yeah? He makes more sense for Barcelona because you have to look at the profile of what these guys offer. You know, these guys have pace as well as strength. So again, that's not going to be happening. Barca shocked the world and signed Rudiger. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that. But yeah, Lisandro is not going to Barcelona, man. I think, as I said, man, we need to just apply common sense. Like, it doesn't make sense why they would go and get him unless it's a free transfer. If it's a free transfer, as I said, then yeah, I can see there being some sort of noise in there because, you know, they'll be looking at someone that can bolster the squad. But what they need right now, because if you look at their centre-backs, yeah, they're playing an actual left-back there at times in Gerard Martin because he's left-footed. But they've got Ronald Araujo, Pau Kobbie. You know, Christensen, I think, might be out for the season. But they need a left-footed central defender. And that's why I'm saying to you, Mickey van der Ven, the fact that Tottenham are struggling at the moment, he becomes viable for them. You know what I mean? What if Leacher wants more money and we aren't giving it to him, Gav? Then you don't give him more money. Again, think of it like this, yeah? Think of it like this, yeah? Lisandro Martinez is what? Is he 20? Is he what? 28? I think he might be 27, 28. Yeah. What does Lisandro Martinez have that we can't go and get elsewhere? These are the questions that we need to be looking at, yeah? Lisandro Martinez he's good on the ball, decent on the ball, yeah? So he's competitive. So him being competitive and him being good on the ball is probably what you would say stands out about him, yeah? I'll give you two players, as I've mentioned before, Mickey van der Ven and Murillo at Nottingham Forest. Mickey van der Ven and Murillo are both quicker than Lisandro Martinez. So when it comes to defending in the wide areas, yeah, you've got no sort of worry that you've got players that can get out to the wide areas and hold their own because they're both quicker than Lisandro. In terms of physicality, Murillo is arguably stronger than Martinez. Yeah, he's stronger than Martinez. Mickey van der Ven, again, is he as strong as Martinez? You can't really test that. But if you're looking at physicality as a whole, in terms of pace and strength, Murillo and Van der Ven both clear Martinez, especially when it comes to defending the wide areas, which is where they're going to be key. Yeah? If you're looking at aerial dominance, Van der Ven's obviously taller than Martinez, so he would have better aerial dominance than Martinez, even though Martinez is competitive. Murillo is probably about a similar height to Martinez and is decent in the air as well. And if you're looking at physicality as a whole, those two have more than what Martinez would offer. So again, if Martinez is coming for a new contract, yeah, why does he need to get a new contract based over what we could potentially get in that area anyway? Because I look at Aiden Heaven, yeah, Aiden Heaven potentially is better than Martinez because the physicality side of it and the pace for what we need, he covers that. Yeah, yeah. Big up Fitz, man. Big up, bro. Big up. So as I said, Aiden Heaven and Aiden Heaven offers more than what Martinez can potentially give us in the future. The only thing people will look at Martinez, yeah, is probably leadership, his ball playing, and probably because of his passion, yeah. But they're things that can be replaced by other players. Because I look at Murillo, yeah. Murillo for me has got big. He's got more strengths than what Martinez can offer. So why wouldn't you just go into the market, get a Murillo who's younger and will offer more than what Martinez gives? Mickey van der Ven the same. He's younger and will offer more than what Martinez gives. So the answer to that, yeah, I think Martinez is on what, 120 a week. Yeah. What would I rather do, yeah? Keep Harry Maguire, yeah, or sell Martinez. So again, I'll definitely keep Maguire if he's a fifth. Maguire as a fifth choice centre back, where he's not going to play week in, week out, is more beneficial than us keeping him than keeping the Martinez for me. If Martinez wants more money, because he doesn't warrant getting more money, because there's players out there that we can go and sign, yeah, that will offer more than what Martinez has given us. So yeah, we shouldn't be getting him. You know what I mean? Giving him more money, sorry. The Glazers have told US contacts that they plan to sell Man United for around 2027, 2028 to pivot into other sports like cricket. Yeah, bro, listen, where's the sauce, man? Where's the sauce? Where's the sauce? Because when I see things like this, yeah, I don't take it seriously. You know what I mean? Because anyone could say that. But big up. Yeah, big up Verbit, man. Big up. Yeah, no worries, man. Again, guys, if you haven't seen the stream from yesterday, with myself, Fitz, and Owen, we done our all-time 11 Arsenal post-Invincible era. So yeah, they're in chapters. So yeah, if you guys get a chance, then go and give that a check, man. If you want to see the full stream, it's on there. But yeah, no, it was a good one. It was a good one. Yeah, man, Bodo Glimt, you know, I just remember that. Yeah, Bodo Glimt beat Inter Milan. Crazy. You know, I was thinking the fact that Inter Milan not Champions League, yeah, I'm trying to think, what does that mean for Bastoni? Can Bastoni be... I mean, is Bastoni, can he be got? You know what I mean? Who knows? I like Bastoni, man. He's good. He's a good, very good defender. Yeah, guys, anyone see the Atlanta game yesterday with Borussia Dortmund? That was crazy, man. Crazy game. Yeah, Dortmund got beat yesterday by Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta went through literally last kick of the game for a penalty, man. It's crazy. So Atalanta or Leverkusen for us. Yeah, listen, clock enders, man. I wouldn't be getting too excited, boy, because you know they're the kind of teams, yeah, that could upset you. I'm telling you, they could upset you. Again, man, I wouldn't be getting too excited. You know, these teams can spring a shock, man. So hold fire. Guys, come on, only 7 likes. Poor. Let's up the likes, guys. Let the channel be seen by more people. Up the likes. There's 9 of you in at the moment. Up the likes, guys. The first leg's away. Okay, listen. You better hope, boy, that you lot get a positive result in the first leg. No, the thing is, the first leg is away because I think the fact that Arsenal finished top, yeah, it meant that I think they play all their games, all their home legs second. I think up until the semi-finals, I believe. I think I see that one time. Who should United sign this summer? If we focus on the midfield, yeah, for me personally, it's got to be. Again, I've said it already. Camavinga, man. If there's a chance we can get Camavinga, then he has to be made priority for me in midfield. Other than that, you know, between Baleba, Tonali, Adam Wharton, Elliot Anderson, those 4 for me are a must. In order, for me, it's got to be Baleba. And I mean, a Camavinga Tonali midfield would be absolutely crazy. A Baleba Tonali midfield would be mad. And then, obviously, if we can get Wharton or Anderson, it'd be good. But I think Wharton and Anderson are going to City or Liverpool, respectively, in my opinion. But, yeah, Baleba, Camavinga, Tonali, I mean, that would be a dream midfielders to get for me. If we're looking at left wing, if we want to go Premier League proven, I mean, Illiman then NDI is an obvious one. I would love Sancho to come back personally, you know, if there's any possibility of that. But if not, and we want to keep it Premier League proven, Illiman NDI. I'll tell you another player that I do like, which I've spoken about as well, is Matthias Marnie. And I think, obviously, Aston Villa are playing Wolves next game, yeah? If Aston Villa have got brains, where he's playing in Birmingham anyway, they need to be making steps to go and get him because I think, yeah, I think with him, Matthias Marnie, yeah, he could be the alternative to Morgan Rogers because Rogers does play a lot of games, yeah. But if you've got a Matthias Marnie who's only, 18, and you've got him as the backup to Morgan Rogers, that's another sign of strength in their squad on a player that could be, you know, a good player in the future, man, because he's already shown what he's got. So, but if Man United could get him, then listen, I'll be back in that signing. But if Villa have got brains, man, then they'll just go and sign that Marnie because he's playing in Birmingham anyway, as it is. And obviously, Wolves are going to get relegated, you'd believe, and he could be gettable for cheap. So Aston Villa for me have to be all over that because if they've got him and Marnie, if they've got him and Rodgers as their 2 sort of number 10 come left wingers, but they're like ball carrying mercurial players in a sense, then listen, it's good business, man. Amadou Onana. Yeah, I've heard Amadou Onana. Do I think we get Onana? No. I don't think Villa sell him. And I would have the likes of Tonali, Baleba, Camavinga, Wharton, and Anderson ahead of Onana. You know, I don't think the Onana's got any legs to it personally. Why would Aston Villa sell Onana when they're going for Champions League football? Doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It's the same reason why we can't get Morgan Rogers. When's Bruno out of contract? I don't know, but all I know is that he's got a release clause that kicks in the summer. So I can't remember what the clause is. I think it's Is it any teams outside Europe that can sign him for a certain amount? I can't remember. But as I keep saying, you know, and there's no revisionism from me, yeah. I'll keep it consistent. Man United need to move on from Bruno Fernandes this summer. I don't want to hear none of this, oh, we need to be keeping him till next season, and you know, if we've got a chance of winning the league, he needs to be there. Listen, we just need to move on from Bruno, because if we don't move on from Bruno, I don't want to hear no one say if he does stay and he starts performing badly, we should have got rid of Bruno Fernandes. Look at it now. Look in hindsight, yeah. There's an opportunity to get rid of him and move this team forwards, and it's now. So that's what needs to happen. What's this one? Apparently, we're in for Mane and Barca for Bastoni. Yeah, I've heard that, but until I think with transfers right now, it's irrelevant, because come the end of the season, this is when I believe that we're gonna definitely see some movement. So I'm more or less looking at that, really, you know. Gav, recommend me a player to sign for my Arsenal career mode. Recommend you a player. What position? What position? What position? Because there's many players, man. Because I'm guessing you're not winning. So yeah, give me a position and I'll just bring you a winner, and that might solve your problems, because I know you haven't got any winners in your current squad. So yeah, let me know. Gav, do you think Carrick will stay? You know what? I'm not too sure. That's the honest truth, because we don't know what they're thinking, because they might already have a manager lined up, regardless of what Carrick is doing. But one thing I will say is that Carrick is making a good case as to why he should stay. But yeah, the honest answer is I'm not too sure. You know, I think what Carrick's doing right now, he's giving himself a chance, but we just don't know what's in their thinking. That's the honest truth, you know. But yeah, let's wait and see, man. If he gets Champions League football, which I believe we will, and we carry playing some good football, then again, man, he's gonna give himself a strong argument, and you can't really blame him for for obviously getting something if that happens. So Bruno's contract ends in 2027. Okay. Big up to Babs One Diva as well with a super sticker. Big up. Bro, I don't have enough money to sign everyone. Give me a position. Position. Preferably a left winger or a fullback. Boy. Well, if you haven't got any money, then that kind of ruins it. You know what I mean? If you're looking for a left winger, yeah, I'm guessing you've sold Martinelli and Trossard. So again, you need to go and get someone that's just a bona fide starter. You know, it's difficult because you got Keenan Yildiz. But unless I know what kind of money you've got, it's irrelevant. You know what I mean? If you've got 10 mil, then forget about it. You know what I mean? So yeah, let me know what kind of money you're working with, and I can have a better judgment at that. Yeah, sign Yagati, you know. Yeah, listen. Boy, if you want to lose games, man, sign Yagati. Antarctica. Boy, big up, man. Big up. Big up. Never had no one on the channel from Antarctica. Big up yourself, though, man. Big up. So you've got 80 million. I thought you said no money. So if you've got 80 million, yeah, to spend on left winger, I would say, yeah, Iliman NDI. Yeah, it depends, really. If you're looking for a youngster, then, yeah, you got Nusa. You've got Malik Fofana. Keenan Yildiz, yeah. I mean, there's names out there, but Yildiz might cost a bit too much. But Iliman NDI, you could probably get him for that budget. So yeah, you might be looking at Iliman NDI probably. Yeah, you might be looking at Illim and NDI, I would say. Like left back, or could I move Timber to left back and sign a right back? Now, you know what it is now, yeah? I've never been a big fan of playing right-footed left backs. You know, obviously it happened before. If you look at the likes of Philip Lahm, Gianluca Zambrotta, you know, I'm pretty sure there was another one. But these guys are like Dennis Irwin. You know what I mean? These guys are like top of the tree in terms of fullbacks that were right-footed that can play left back. But just keep Timber at right back and go and sign a left-footed left back. I'm guessing, obviously, Lewis Skelly, you don't like him. Calafiori and Hincapié, you know. So if you're looking at a left back, you never know, man. Try your hand on El Hadji Malik Diouf. Or what's the guy that plays for Eintracht Frankfurt? Forgot his name. Lewis Hall, another one. Yeah, try them players, you know what I mean? But if you've got 80 million, you've only got a chance to sign one player, really. So that's a choice you've got to make. You sold Havertz. Okay. Is financial takeover still a thing? Yeah, listen, that has to be the most fakest thing I've seen. I mean, that's just giving you scope to go and sign anyone. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. But yeah, it's mad. It's mad. Guys, my team on my FIFA, yeah, which I can't even play no more because I'm not sure if anyone's experiencing a problem on FIFA, but my game's just not loading, so I can't even play it, yeah? But my team, I've got Lemens and Juan Garcia as my two goalkeepers. My right back, I've got Jed Spence and I've got Wesley. If anyone knows about Wesley, the Brazilian fullback at Roma. I've got him as first choice right back and I've got Jed Spence. My two left backs are... Who have I got left back? Who's my left backs? I forgot now. Oh, that's going to bug me. Who's my left backs? Guys, mine's gone blank. I can't remember who my left backs are. But my centre backs, I've got Murillo, Ronald Araujo, Matthias de Ligt, and Lenny Yoro, and Aiden Heaven. So, Yoro's on loan. I've got Aiden Heaven, who's back up to Murillo, and I've got Ronald Araujo and Matthias de Ligt. My midfield, I've got Baleba, Adam Walton, Kobbie Mainoo. I've got Ahmad in the 10. I've got Morgan Rogers, who I've just signed in the 10 as well, that can play up from the left. I've got Mason Greenwood, who's he's absolutely ridiculous on the game. I've got Mason Greenwood. I've got Desiree Doué on the left. Joshua Xerxes as my striker. Yeah, that's my team, yeah. I can't remember I got left back, though. Oh, yeah, Guevara Reed. I've got him on loan, Fitz, man. Yeah, I've got Guevara Reed on loan. That's it. I've got Dorgu. Oh, sorry. My left backs are Dorgu and Matson. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, Dorgu and Matson. Ian Matson. They're my two left backs. And I got Guevara Reed on loan. But as I said, I can't even play the game, man, because the game's just not loading. It's not loading. Verbic, man. Zambrotta was right-footed. He's a right-footed left back. Just like Philip Lahm. You know what I mean? He's a right-footed left back. I mean, he could use his left foot, don't get me wrong. But when there's no player, yeah, that is really both-footed. Because you're always going to have a dominant foot. You know what I mean? It's just like when, as I mentioned to you guys before, about Ousmane Dembele. Ousmane Dembele is right-footed. He's not left-footed, but he can use his left foot well. Do you know what I mean? So Zambrotta was naturally right-footed, but could use his left foot. But if you want to say he's both-footed, he's not both-footed. He's just right-footed that can use his left. Yeah, big up Fitz, man. Nathaniel Brown. David Bellion. Yeah, listen. Listen, Clockenders, man. We was in the pits of hell, man, with David Bellion. Just like you guys were in the pits with the likes of Igor Stepanovs. and Schillaci and them kind of guys, Christopher Ray and that, you know what I mean? So listen, if you want to do that, man, we can go back and forth with your players, you know what I mean? You know, Gav really likes Malik Diouf. Malik Diouf's a good player, man. He's a good player. And it's not about me really liking Malik Diouf. I just think with what's available right now, you know, if we are looking at a left back, you know, he's one of the names that I think needs to be in contention with Lewis Hall. Lewis Hall, I'd love to get Man United to get, but we're not getting Lewis Hall because Newcastle are not going to sell him for anything less than 80 mil, just like Livramento. So, and I think Malik Diouf could be gettable for slightly cheaper. My son overheats every game. Boy, he's banging it out, Fitz, man. That's what he's doing. He's banging the games out, yeah? Yeah, listen, Wesley, yeah, is rapid on the game. He's rapid on the game, I'm telling you. Yeah, he's my. When I brought him in, I brought him as backup to Jed Spence, and now he's my first choice right back because again, his overall rating for me right now is 85, and Jed Spence is 84. But Wesley's just ridiculous on the game. But him and Jed Spence are very good. So yeah, Man United career mode, bro. Yeah. I said my team, I got Juan Garcia and Lamens are my two keepers. Two right backs are Wesley and Jed Spence. Two left backs are Dorgu and Matson. My centre backs are Murillo. Yeah, guys, sorry about that. I have to wrap it up in 5 minutes. But yeah, my team is yeah, my team is yeah, my team is what's his name? Yeah, Murillo, Heaven, the centre backs. Araujo and Delict is my right-sided centre-backs. Baleba, Walton, Kobbie, Mainoo as my midfielders. And I've just signed Lamine Kamara as like a backup as well. And then I've got Ahmad in the 10 with Morgan Rogers who can play there and from the left. Due as well on the left. I've got Mason Greenwood, Joshua Xerxes. Obviously Greenwood plays on the right and then Xerxes is the striker. So that's my team, man. Yeah, listen, you see Ronald Araujo, yeah? I rate Araujo highly. I know he's had injuries, but Araujo for me is Liverpool's answer to Van Dijk. I think he's very good. I mean, he hasn't been great, I would say, in comparison to what happened when he first broke onto the scene. But injuries might have played its part. But yeah, I rate him highly, Araujo. How do you feel about Saka in the middle, Gav? How do I feel about it, yeah? It's a disgrace. You spent 60 million on Eze to go and play Saka at number 10. Embarrassing. And that's all because you want to fit Saka into the team. It's laughable, you know what I mean? If I'm Eze, yeah, I know Eze got 2 against Tottenham, but Eze must have looked at that game against Wolves and thought, yeah, this man's just taking the piss. 60 mil, not only does he play Odegaard ahead of him, he's now playing a right winger in Saka ahead of him. So yeah, that's disgraceful, man. Disgraceful. Yeah, listen, Pascal Segan. Listen, I forgot about Pascal Segan, you know. My God. They were in trouble, man, when they had players like that. Schillaci, Segan, Stepanovs. Yeah. Yeah, listen, man. Hi, what is your favourite football club? Man United, and I like Barcelona too, as well. Wesley and Abdul Hamid. Do you know what? That Abdul Hamid, actually, funny enough, I've actually come across him in the game. I actually thought he was a made-up player. I actually thought he was a made-up player, but I've actually seen, yeah. Yeah, crazy, man. But guys, listen, I have to wrap it up anyway. But big up to yourselves for coming through. As I said, make sure you check out the stream from yesterday. I will have a little video coming out as well in regards to, you know, our stream yesterday with my Fitz and Owen on our all-time Arsenal 11 post-Invincible era. So, yeah, make sure you guys go and check that out. Yeah, big up Verbit, man. Big up. Okay, he's a Saudi Arabian wonder kid. Okay, I thought he was made up. But, yeah, guys, make sure you check out the stream from yesterday. As I said, it's in chapters. And let me know what you guys think. And guys, check out the posts as well. So I got some posts that have been up. I got one that come out, I think, about a couple of hours ago, and one this morning. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments as well, and let me know what you think after this stream as well in regards to today's discussion about Kobbie, Mainoo and Jude Bellingham. As I said, it's not a combo for everyone, but you know, I like to give insight into certain things, and hopefully I provide that for you guys today. And as I said, these will be going up into chapters as well, guys. So bear with me for an hour or so while I get the chapters done, but they will definitely be in chapters, so you guys can just divert to see exactly what I'm discussing. So Darren Jameson says, do you like Man United? Yeah, bro, I'm a Man United supporter, man. But this channel isn't just Man United content, you know. I'm just well-versed in football in general. So I talk about everything football. So if you check out, obviously, all my other videos, you will see what discussions I have just based on not just Man United, but just players and in football in general. So as I said today's discussion was about Kobbie, Mainoo and Jude Bellingham. You know, real talent versus PR. Yeah, that's what the discussion was today. Gav is technically a pundit. Nah, bro, you know what it is. I'm not a pundit because I'm not scripted. That's the difference. A lot of these pundits are scripted. They're told what to say, but no one can tell me what to say because I'm just gonna say what I see. So yeah, I'm not a pundit, man. You know, I'm not a pundit. No way am I that. As I say, these pundits are scripted. A lot of them, you know, they just go with what is fashionable in the media. I never do that. I talk about from experience and what I can see. So so yeah, that's what the channel's about, man. But no, big up, man. Big up to all the mods as well, as usual. Big up to all the newcomers coming in. And guys, make sure you smash the like button. Make sure you sub to the channel and make sure you share the channel and check out all the other content as well that is on the channel. As I said, there'll be a video coming out at some point today. As I said, the chapters will be coming out for the stream yesterday as well. So yeah, make sure you guys give that a watch. Should be back, guys. What's tomorrow? Friday. Yeah, probably back. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm not sure what time. It might be an evening one. I'm gonna do the preview to the Man United versus Crystal Palace game at home, and yeah, we'll see what team potentially Carrick might go with. I think his team selection might be interesting, to be honest with you. But yeah, be back live tomorrow. As I said, keep an eye on the notifications to see when I go live. And as I say, make sure you keep coming through, supporting the channel and giving your opinions as well. But other than that, guys, have a good Thursday and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Take it easy.